This summer marks the 40th anniversary of Title IX, a portion of the Education Amendments of 1972, which is also referred to as the Equal Opportunity in Education Act. The 37 words in that legislation were originally drafted in order to help women receive more opportunities in higher education and didn't even mention the words athletics or sports. But Title IX wound up being the single biggest contributor to modern women's athletics. With us tonight to discuss the impact of Title IX are women representing 4 decades of the legislation's effects. Diane Even Shanklin, she was an athlete at Lakota High School, Moorhead State, founded the Orville volleyball program. Cheryl Shane Koch, athlete at Norwayne High School. Jen Maybaugh Snowbarger, athlete at Worcester High School and Kent State. And Hannah Plyman, a current athlete at Orville High School, and she has a basketball scholarship to Akron. Thanks for joining us, ladies. Let's start with Diane, who saw Title IX introduced during her college years, and then it helped her in college at Moorhead State. She went on to start Orville's volleyball program in 1975. Diane, what was it like to play sports in the 1960s? Not really anything like Hannah's experiencing today, is it?
Well, we didn't have half the opportunities that these young ladies have, and you were basically playing because you loved to play. There were really no qualified female coaches. It was like, okay, can you help out with this? And maybe it was a phys ed teacher that did it. But it's real different today. There's a lot more opportunities out there.
And then, how much did it change at Moorhead State? I mean, at least you maybe had better coaches, but it was...
You know, really, it didn't have an impact at that year. The year that came in, I think it took several years for people to comply with that because everybody did not embrace that ruling whatsoever. So I think there was some discrepancy in what schools had to do and when they were going to do it and how they were going to do it. So at Moorhead, we were not affected at all, as I think most universities were not at that time.
And Cheryl, by the time you were in high school in the mid-1970s, the effects of Title IX were already everywhere, and OHSAA started state volleyball and basketball tournaments in 1975 and 1976 when you were a junior at Norwayne. What do you remember about playing sports at that time?
Okay, it's like she said, it was so much different than right now because we only played every Wayne County school if they had that sport one time through. So, I mean, my volleyball season, I think we only had 7 games the whole season. And then my senior year, we had 11 or 12. Same way with basketball. We only played every school once. The first year we went to Northwestern, the next year they came to us. So they have double the games now than what we had.
And what was the kind of what was like the fan support? I mean, how many kind of did your parents show up? Did other people? I mean, how?
Basically, the parents.
It was.
They didn't have student section or anything like that.
So I'm sure that, and the level of probably of community support was not in any way, shape, or form like it is today, right?
Right. No.
Jen, your career was kind of in the midway point of this legislation, and then you took it into college, and then still coaching today. What effects did you see and how were women supported then and now?
I think just through the years, athletics in general have changed. Just back as an athlete, playing 3 sports and the demands of it and just what coaches did in the off season and all that is so different from today, just even in the 90s. The expectations and, I mean, the level of play of which Hannah's playing now compared to when I played just in the 90s is volleyball, just in general, is almost a different game with the speed and the demands, and what they put into it is they're definitely improving the game.
And Hannah, here we are in 2012, and there's already a well-respected pro league, the WNBA. And your favorite sport, basketball. Is basketball your favorite sport, I'm guessing? Okay. And there's lots of other opportunities for women kind of both in college and throughout the sports world. And as we kind of talked about earlier, in the 1950s and 60s, girls had to play 6-on-6 basketball, and sometimes they could only dribble 3 times in a row, and had to either stay on the offensive or the defensive side of the floor. Kind of. Did you know that before?
Not really. I've seen like movies, like older movies about basketball, but the rules were different. Like I could see a lot of different things. Like there was no 3-point line. My uncle played without a 3-point line, so there's a lot of changes in the game from then to now.
And kind of with that in mind, what do you think? Kind of when hearing how much women's sports have advanced to this point.
Like, I still would have played it back then. It's like a sport I love, but it's crazy how much it's changed. Like, I wouldn't have known anything, like, back then without a 3-point line. It's so much different. It changed the game. Like, scoring, it'd be so much harder to catch up, but it's just different. I don't know.
What would you think about playing basketball and only being able to dribble 3 times before you had to pass it?
A lot of people might probably quit because they wouldn't be happy with how much they have the ball, but it's a team sport, so I mean, it'll work out. It's still a basketball game, so.
For Diane and Cheryl, what were some of the early obstacles that women faced as far as acceptance in sports? I mean, now, even when I was in high school in the 80s, I mean, I don't know if people support it as much, but now, media, we try to cover it equally, and I think that the girls' sports do get good crowds, and everyone thinks it's really a positive thing, but was it always like that, or was it like the social acceptance and the support?
It's kind of funny because in my yearbook, I was looking through it and haven't looked through it for years and years, and there's probably about 8 pages of the boys, different pages and different snapshots, and there was like 1 page with just the team picture. So it's come a long, long way.
Diana, your comments on that?
Well, when I first started coaching, it was strictly parents in the stands. That was it, because the time of the games were, they were early. So the parents couldn't make it. No matter how much they wanted to be there, they couldn't make it. And you talk about a student body, there wasn't even 1 student there. So as far as community support, non-existent. Because I don't think, in particular volleyball, people didn't know anything about the game. They knew nothing. You know, we were still learning. You know, it was changing so much all the time. But basketball was probably a little better because boys played basketball. You know, they had some idea of what the game was about and could go with that. But volleyball was the real, no one knew anything about it.
What would you add to that, Jen, the acceptance today, even compared to when you were in high school, or the support?
I think just even the daily record in general, like it used to be just a side sport to it, and now you see it as like a front runner sport of just like it's up there with, you know, soccer, and up there for the fall with football. Yeah, football gets more coverage. I think that's one of your main sports, but volleyball is up. It's not just like the black and white on the second page. We're in the color photos, and we're getting the all daily record team, and that, I think it's the word out there.
That's good to hear.
Way to plug.
Diane and Cheryl, you both had daughters go on to play sports in Division I. Kara Koch's going to be a senior at Cleveland State in volleyball, and Tiffany played at Cincinnati, you said, right?
Tiffany played at Kent.
At Kent, okay. Then your other daughter at Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
So they've benefited from the scholarships and that type of thing from Title IX, but there have also been lawsuits and controversies, and the legislation has been challenged over the years as programs add and subtract. You know, men's track programs have been cut, for example. People argue over the budgets. How do both of you feel about where the equality of women's sports are? We mentioned in high school it's getting more coverage, but maybe in the college level, professional, you know, national media attention. How do both of you feel about women's equality in sports?
Well, professionally, women have a long way to go. I mean, there's more and more out there, but if you notice, really the only professional volleyball leagues is beach volleyball, and that's a totally different game than what the indoor game is. It's, I don't know, I mean, there's just, I don't know what to say.
For basketball, there's a lot more for them.
Yeah.
Volleyball is just not a lot unless you go play overseas. And I'm not real sure if that's sand also or if that's court.
No, that's court.
Okay.
Well, Erica Short was over
Right.
there,
Right.
so
obviously the Olympics as well. I mean,
Yeah.
for volleyball, but that's not a professional job for many.
No.
Jen and Hannah, while women's sports have more participants and popularity than ever, they still don't draw the same number of fans on average or make as much money at the pro level. Is that something that you think will ever change? And if not, is that something that kind of you're okay with? Or
Here we go.
I don't care.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's always like some games are bigger than others. Like, for example, Worcester. It draws a lot of crowd because people live like close. But with other games, you just kind of expect that because of like the travel time it takes to get there, and not many people are gonna come travel to watch us unless like we're doing good. But I think it'll always. I mean, it might get better with how good you are, but I think it'll always stay the same.
I think some of the issues with like girls sports versus boys sports in high school are the nights in which we play. You know, basketball's on the weekend and the nights where it's not school the next day, and so more like families can go to it with younger kids, and mom and dad's is easier because there's not work. Where we're like girls basketball, you're Saturday afternoon and mornings, and which is not bad, but it's not that evening event for families. And then you're also a Thursday night, which is during the week, and volleyball is definitely during the week, majority. And you know, football Friday night. So I feel like with that, it kind of keeps it, you know, who can come and who can't. It kind of opens it up more. But
right.
as far as will it ever equal out, I don't know. I think it's made strides in the years. Maybe eventually you don't. No, I don't. I think we do get support though, so it's not like it's not supported.
Right.
So do any of you think they should make more of an effort to have a girls' basketball game on Friday night or Saturday night? Maybe flip-flop with the boys a little more?
Is
Or
there?
maybe they do it some.
They do at some schools. I
Yeah.
think they're putting girls basketball on the weekend nights, and they're kind of. But I think one was home and one was away, so not as many fans could go, or how they were working that out. But
Yeah.
I'd kind of like to see them try varsity girls before the varsity boys game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to see, you know, how many people that would pull in, and that would give the girls, you know, more of a center stage in front of, you know, bigger crowds, and handle pressure and, you know, situations a lot better. Right now the guys, you know, get the limelight basically because of when they play.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's so many other sports going on those same nights, you know, on the Tuesday, Thursday, you got cross country, you got tennis, you know, you have golf. So everything is spread out, but on Friday night, it's football night.
Well, we've talked about how far the women's athletics have come, but you know, while you have the chance, is there anything you've thought of or can think of now that you think is a big stride, that a further stride that needs to be changed in high school girls athletics or college, or you know, there's not really, besides the WNBA, not a lot of pros. What do you think is the next step for women's athletic? Anyone want to join in on that?
you know, I think it's good that you're bringing this to everyone's attention. You know, and refocusing like what actually has happened. I came in where playing athletics was pretty comfortable. You know, and as an athlete going through, I never really. I don't know if I wasn't told or I didn't think about that there wasn't this opportunity for, you know, my coaches possibly at that time, or never had the discussion about how far it's already grown as a sport and what I'm able to do. So I think, you know, bringing this up and seeing where it's gone, I think the pioneers of athletics are what needs to keep us focused on moving forward and keeping them equal, so at least we can progress that way.
So we think it's pretty good, or is there any big changes that any of you think still need to take it better to be more equal, or?
I think one big change that has to take place is more women have to get involved. You know, there were a lot of female athletes coming up through the ranks that are not involved in coaching at all. They don't take their daughters to girls' games, and I think they need to see that. They just don't need, and I'm not taking anything away from cheerleading, but they need to see that girls doing more than just cheerleading for a boys' sport.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be actively involved, and they also need to have these role models. You know, if you look at the boys, you know, when they have coaches, you know, they look up to them. They're like, oh, they are special people in their life.
Yeah.
I don't know if girls can honestly say that, you know, at this point where the females are in at the grassroots level, like the Boys and Girls Club, you know, and even coaching like freshman teams, you know, because
Yeah.
you know how hard it is to get coaches. Female coaches are not out there.
So there are a lot of very good male coaches that lead the girls teams, but you're saying you'd like to see some more women as coaches.
There are very good males, but those males didn't come in until the money got better. When the money got better, then the males came in to coach. Before that, they only wanted, you know, to coach the male sports because that was where the respect was. There was very little respect in coaching a female sport at that time. But yes, I would like to see more female coaches in the system coaching female athletes. Not that guys are not qualified. I don't have anything against that, but I think these females need to have role models.
Anything else, Cheryl or Hannah, or you think it's pretty good other than these topics or these ideas?
Go ahead, speak up.
Say it now, girls, say it now.
Well, thank you all four of you for coming in. It's been really interesting to hear your take on 4 decades of experience in women's athletics, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.